everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Jeff Krueger, and I'm manager here at Versatile Distribution Services. We at VDS are committed to find the best solutions for our customers, and as such, we want to continue to bring you the best in breed of remote workflow solutions. So today, we're excited to host our friends from Leostream, who will present Leostream version 9 software. This is a software layer connection broker that sits on top, but not in the data path, of the entire IT environment and provides users remote access. This is commonly used with vCentral Remote Boost and Teradici environments, or basically any display protocol. So just a quick note before we get started, this webinar is recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. Anytime during the presentation, feel free to type any questions you have in the chat window down on the, I believe it's on the lower right, and they'll be answered during our Q&A at the end. So with that, I'm very pleased to introduce Ryan Kerrigan, Sales Engineer for Leostream, and Bob Iwanowski, Vice President of Business Development. Bob, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Bob Ewanouski, VP of Business Development here at Leostream. I've been with Leostream for about 16 years. At one point, I ran sales, and now I'm on the business development side. So here to help you grow your business and answer any questions as they come up. So Leostream's been around since 2002, and we are not a full stack solution. We're the piece in the middle with a session management layer that controls user access to their machines. And those machines can be physical, virtual, it can be cloud desktops, and over many different display protocols. But today, we're going to focus really on the Remote Boost Stack, or vCentral, which I think is the topic we're after today. So here's some of our partners. So Leostream, because as I mentioned, we're that middle layer, the session management layer, we can connect to anything. So whether it's Amazon Web Services, Nutanix, VMware, OpenStack, we give the customers the ability to pick and choose what platform best suits them today. And clearly, with all the remote access going on today, customers want to connect to their machines in their local data center, but also the ability to burst out to one of the public clouds. Really, what the flexibility of the product. Not only is it flexible on the platform, but it's also flexible around display protocols. You can see here there's all the different display protocols we support: RDP, VNC, Teradici, as mentioned, and the big one here is obviously HP's Remote Boost. So Leostream it's really a truly hybrid solution because of all the different platforms we support, different display protocols. We give users access to anything they need from wherever they want. Ryan, I'll let you take it over from here for the demo.
Okay.
Over to you, Ryan.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Bob. So sorry about that. There's a little bit of a delay. So I'll just start off and talk about what Leostream brings to the table in a HP Remote Boost workflow. So one of the largest things that we see in a lot of our different customers and a lot of our end users is they're securing that connection and enabling an access control layer between your end user and your target desktop. So Leostream has a gateway device or gateway appliance that we allow to sit in between your desktop and your end user, but we're not creating any network issues or degrading any performance like a VPN appliance possibly could while sitting between a user and a desktop. This also lets you gain an audit level trail of users when they connect in. So when a user wants to access a desktop, they log into the UI of the gateway. From that, we'll take their user information, whether that's from Active Directory or a local user on the broker. So we don't have to have a directory service. So if you are in a situation where you want to you build your own user base, enter the information yourself, and not have to tie you into a larger ecosystem like Active Directory or LDAP, you can add users on your broker and assign different desktops based off of those specific what you want them to have access to. So that end user, once they log in and we've filtered what they're doing and what they should have access to, we'll assign a connection to a desktop. So we're not creating a point-to-point connection. So those desktops can be secure and behind your firewall. They do not have to be publicly exposed or port forwarded. And the end users don't know the difference. They just download an RGS connection file and connect straight to the machine. So what that actually looks like, I'll bring up my demo machine here. is, let's say I log in with through the web UI of the gateway, log in with my user credential, and this is just a local user that I made on the broker. We'll see a different offering of desktops. The offering of desktops is customizable. So if you have different types of users that need access to different resources, we can really narrow down what they're allowed to see. And with that, I can choose my RGS desktop here. I'll connect into it. And all of these steps are logged. So you can build that audit level trail of who was offered what did they choose, when did they connect, when did they disconnect. So now I'm connecting into my desktop. I go in, I can either go straight in, or I can have you, we can prompt for the Windows credentials on this side. So if you are giving people unique usernames on the for accessing remotely, you could still use that local user. So, you know, in M&E, it's always editor, or some other local user for your facility. So this way you can have that flexibility of having the full single sign-on experience or coming in with a local user on the desktop. So in essence, we provide that one pane of glass, right? So I talked earlier about how that gateway, the Leostream gateway, is able to, you know, route that traffic from, you know, point A to point B, but we're not degrading any performance. We're providing you the ability to enable a layer of access control, but have users get that full feature-rich quality of an RGS session. Another part of this invitation portal that I showed here, or this desktop offering portal, is you can have users invite other users to view their session. So utilizing the capability of RGS to collaborate, we can build a UI where you can just say, I want to invite remote editor 2. I'll send them an email and let's get them to be able to log in and view the same screen as me. So this allows for you to build collaborative workflows without having to, you know, install something like Zoom or Teams on a desktop where both end users are using the same protocol, but we're still enabling the level of security that you get by using the Leostream gateway and the broker, by requiring passwords, by requiring multi-factor if that's enabled. And that lets you build out that feature-rich workflow no matter what the size of the environment is. Another piece of using something like our web UI is we do also get the ability to tie into a SAML provider. So if you're using something like Okta, or you're using you know, Azure AD or Duo, any of these other applications, we can tie in and then have a user log in with their, you know, their Azure credentials. And hey, for this one, I have 2-factor enabled. So I'm going to type in my PIN here. And we're going to go straight to the web UI, just like you would see with that local user that I logged in before. If you're in a hybrid environment, we can start and stop VMs. We can start and stop, you know, cloud machines, provision cloud machines. So Leostream gives you the flexibility to go from multiple different devices and multiple different locations. And I'll just give you a brief glance of what the web UI looks like here to kind of show you how that is all done and what it looks like in the background. So this is the web UI and where all this is initially set up. And we could be as simple as creating a user and then assigning them a desktop. So when that user, they always get the same desktop. Or we start building this logic called policies where we can provide access to multiple different desktops and a pool of desktops. So we could assign alike desktops with a similar protocol, then a similar location. So as you start to build out this access control layer of a system, you can really get very granular with how you are offering desktops to an end user. Now, this logic there applies where also when you're in a situation where you have multiple different facilities. So if you have a post house in LA and a post house in New York, but you want one central login portal for anyone that's working for that company, then you can provide them the access through a Leostream gateway. But then you come up with that logic of, if I go through the gateway in LA, well, does that mean when I connect in, I'm going to have to go from LA to New York and transit all of that through a VPN maybe that's between sites? No. So we apply this logic within our protocol plans that assigns not just the protocol, but also the gateway that a user logs into. So if I log into my gateway in LA, but I choose a desktop in New York, I'm able to reroute that traffic so that I'm going through the gateway in New York. So again, we retain the high quality of that RGS session. We're not transiting data anywhere that it shouldn't. So you can build these hybrid environments from one single pane of glass for the end user. Some other pieces in this is, like I said, we'll tie into different servers as needed. We'll integrate with a cloud provider and provision machines based on how you want to build out your environment. So you could start just on-prem and then move to scaling up to a cloud provider if needed. We can have as many gateways as we want, so as many different locations. We tie all of our machines together within our pools interface here. So we can sort our different machines just based on different ways you can filter. And also, one common issue in a VDI environment or a remote access environment is you'll see that users will kick each other off of a machine. They'll try to log in and they'll log into Edit Bay 1, but someone else happens to still be logged in. So part of the whole concept of using the Leostream broker is we're able to say, okay, if a user is still on, when do I actually allow other users to have access to that desktop or be able to kick someone off? So we're monitoring, disconnects, logouts, when the connection's closed, when the desktop is idle, when the desktop is first assigned. So because we're monitoring all these things, you're able to build that full end-to-end workflow where when an end user logs in and is connected to a desktop, they have that desktop. They own it just like they were sitting in front of the screen in an edit bay in a post-production facility. So what we're doing is building those workflows from a back-end side where, like I said, users don't know the difference. They may be connecting on a laptop or through a thin client, but from their perspective, they own that edit bay, they're part of that edit bay, and you're able to restrict who has access to that room and audit who is actually on that machine. One of the last pieces I also want to share with that is, along with our, I talked about collaboration, one of the big pieces that a lot of people worry about with collaboration, especially if you're using something like Zoom or Google Meets, is I can just send that link to anyone. I could send that link to a user in China, a user in Australia that may not have the rights to actually view that media. They're not collaborating. I sent it to the wrong person. I don't want someone to jump in on that session and see media that hasn't been released or they haven't signed an NDA yet. So part of that is by using the collaborative feature within the broker, you can even restrict by the attribute of a user. So if you're using something like AD or LDAP, I can say, if this user isn't part of this specific team or group within my enterprise and within my facility, then that means I cannot invite them to see my screen. So we build an ecosystem where you can have a high-end filtering system so that users that you assign that you want to have access to specific desktops only get access to those machines based on all the decision making you can make in the broker. And with that, it's as simple as user A goes to user B or to desktop A, or it could be user A gets access to a whole pool of desktops. So that's showing the basic feature set of what Leostream does. Like I said, we can do the collaboration, we'll allow access to different machines. And going back to our gateway, if I bring that slide back up here, we're able to build that ecosystem that's scalable across many different platforms, regardless of if it's a VMware, a VMware platform, a hardware platform with something like an HP Z series machine or a Blade server, or a cloud provider. We're able to help facilitate that across multiple different verticals and multiple different areas and use cases, so that from an end user's perspective, they look at a one pane of glass, choose your desktop, enable them to have to do their multi-factor authentication, go through all the security steps, but not publicly expose a desktop, so that you're still able to really facilitate having a full secure workflow that is auditable and able to be that's able to be looked at as a secure and a way that can be used in the future beyond just when we get past COVID or any other event that happens that requires people to work remotely. This enables you to have a business continuity plan and the ability to work remotely, regardless of once we move past the current pandemic, because with a scalable solution, especially in the cloud, this becomes more and more applicable as there is a migration to that type of workflow. So I'm going to move off into the Q&A section here. My slide wants to change. Does anyone have any questions or anything to go over?
It looks like we've got one. Can you schedule users on a particular edit day?
Yes. So that is actually that's a good point. So with our scheduling feature within our policies, when you assign a user to a specific policy, we're able to go within that and say that this end user should only have access between a certain day of the week or time of the day. So with that, you're able to build this type of workflow so that user A has access to the edit bay between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. and do different shift work so people don't kick each other off.
What about degradation you did on a VPN?
Yeah, so the one of the big, like I said, with the Leostream gateway, is that really does enable you to limit any type of performance degradation that you would see with a VPN. So a protocol like RGS or any of these other graphically accelerated protocols commonly are using UDP packets, and UDP is generally very hard to pass through at a good bandwidth through a VPN appliance because there's a lot of overhead, and also it gets really expensive. You pay for a very expensive firewall to handle X amount of throughput, and when you're talking about moving video, that bandwidth that's required is astronomical compared to what a typical user would use a VPN for. So with the desktop, with let's say two 1080p monitors, you're going anywhere from 25 to 100 megabit or more, depending on your resolution and the amount of moving video. So that right there is beyond the bandwidth of some small business VPN appliances. And then as you scale up and move into 10s, 20, 30, 40, 50 users, you could be really pushing a VPN appliance too hard where those users, when they're working concurrently, will not be able to work. So by using the Leostream gateway, we're able to work around that by adding that access control layer and the security in front of it without having to have any of the fundamental pieces of a VPN that are going to take away from performance. And then let's see here. So does the broker and the gateway need to run on hardware or separate hardware? So the broker and the gateway can both be virtualized. They can also run on hardware. They do need to be on separate machines from each other, so they work out to be separate instances. They'll both run on CentOS 7 or Red Hat 7, the latest versions of those, and it's a very simple installation on top of that, and the base specifications about 2 cores and 8 gigs of RAM. So it's not actually there's not very much of a big hardware or requirement in order to run this. So this could sit on top of a small virtualization server. You could run it in the cloud, and you're able to really facilitate for each Leostream gateway, you could facilitate 100 concurrent users. So this is able to really scale up as the site grows. And along with that, this is all scalable to be highly available, redundant. So when you are working with an enterprise or a customer that requires everything to be HA, everything to be redundant, we're able to help facilitate that with all of the different pieces within the broker. Another question that popped in is about multi-factor. So with multi-factor, this allows you to have that a trust that you would see similar with a VPN. So with the VPN, you have someone's logging in. A lot of times they're logging in with a specific credential or some type of key, and then they may also have a PIN code or a push notification to a cell phone or an email address. So by enabling both the user credential to log in and multi-factor, it becomes a very similar workflow. From a security perspective or an access control perspective of making sure that the person that actually has those credentials is the only one logging in. And along with that, the gateway has let's call it a zero trust relationship with allowing people access to desktops. The gateway does not allow a user to try to connect to the gateway without actually going through all your authentication, because it's dynamically creating those firewall rules that are allowing for the user A to connect to desktop A. And we're filtering by their source IP. So we're filtering by their public IP of their home internet or wherever they happen to be. And so what that does is it helps enable another layer of security of even when the gateway is opening up connection to a desktop, it's only opening up a connection to a very specific location that user is in. I can wrap it up there with, what Leostream is, and like Bob said earlier, is we sit on top of that software and hardware stack to allow you to facilitate offering desktops either remotely or on-prem. And we leverage ourselves as a piece that is not necessarily reliant on one specific protocol or hardware platform. So it's easily scalable depending on if you're using RGS on-prem and DCV in the cloud, or RGS in both locations, or whatever protocol we support. You can facilitate having a workflow that is not just for your end users with a high graphic performance, but can also be scaled across a different location or enterprise for multiple different types of users. So with that management pane, where end users are able to easily choose their desktop and not have to think about how they're connecting to their desktop, that also brings in less work on the IT department of troubleshooting VPN appliances, making sure people have to have a provisioned key to get to certain things. It's very much just adding a user, making sure they have the correct rights within the broker, and everything else is handled in the same way. I'm just going to do one last call for any questions here. So the gateway can run alongside another with the VPN. So you could, instead of, if I look here on this drawing, it says internet. This could also just mean a VPN connection that goes to the gateway. And in that way, if you do put this behind a VPN because of certain security needs, or just your IT department isn't able to move away from it, then what we can do is you can still enable to have an access control layer in front of your desktops. So regardless of that network ecosystem, you still get the audit level tracking of, I know that this user logged into this desktop on this time based on all of the different pieces of the Leostream's ecosystem. So you're able to get that log that can be monitored, sent to different external logging aggregators, or you can just generate reports straight in the broker on what machines have been accessed at certain times. And it's very easily scalable since we are a web-based application. So you get to take advantage of a lot of the different enterprise solutions there as you grow to scale the system up and down.
So yes, so to that point, one of the things that you'll hear is, okay, with HP Z Central, they have Z Connect. With Teradici, they have Cloud Access Manager. Both products are connection layers, but they don't have the feature set that Leostream has. So in fact, we've partnered with HP. We're an approved partner with HP. So when they do have an enterprise customer for Z Central, they'll introduce Leostream because of this feature set. And for your customers, they're not locked into a specific stack. You have a lot of flexibility around platforms and protocols with using the Leostream platform.